I'm in New York City. I'm in the finance capital of the world. I'm getting these clients that are CEOs, CMOs, like executives of major companies. And I thought, you know what? Instead of having them pay me, I'll just tell them, I'll cut your hair for free if you'll teach me how you became wealthy.
Why do you think it's important to have the right partners and people in your life? How do you go about identifying them?
Everyone wants things fast, but I didn't want to do things alone. I want to do something big and I want to do something meaningful. And in order to do something meaningful, it has to involve other people. I don't see clients anymore. And I think it was a really important part of my journey that I retired. Getting through it, I enjoyed building it and I enjoyed the lessons I learned. I enjoyed the people I met and I enjoyed the skills I acquired. But I knew I wanted to do something big. I knew that was in me. Started learning about business and investing, and that really, really interested me. It was crazy to consider letting go of the identity of, hey, I work with famous people. Well, what would it say about me if I kept doing what I knew was not my long-term calling?
Welcome to The Millionaire Hairstylist, where our mission is to improve the financial well-being of hairstylists and creative professionals. Today is a really special episode. It's a conversation between our founder, celebrity hairstylist Lawless, and Anne Moratto. Anne is one of the editors at Modern Salon. Modern Salon has been documenting, supporting, and chronicling what is happening in the salon industry now for 100 years. Anne brings a wealth of insight and experience in her time in the industry. And this is a two-way street. It's a conversation where Anne is asking Cash questions about things like raising prices, improving your relationship with money, and more of Cash's backstory of how he became, succeeded, and then retired as a hairstylist. And then Anne's perspective, given her vantage point in the industry, on things like employee retention, the use of retail in salons, and much more. Two really interesting perspectives on what's happening in the salon and hairstylist community. I know you're going to walk away with insights that'll have an impact in your business today. Let's get right into it. Here's Lawless and Anne Moratto on The Millionaire Hairstylist.
All right. I wanted to jumpstart this interview by talking about, as I say, some of these things you touch on. Eliminating financial anxiety is one big one, because I think anxiety contributes to really poor decision-making, to kind of muddled thinking. What do you think are some of the things we've told ourselves that might get in the way of developing a good relationship with money and with our finances?
I think there's some pretty foundational myths, and I know that because I had them. And being on set and working with other hairstylists and makeup artists and beauty professionals, we all kind of believe the same thing about money. And what I discovered was a lot of those were false. And I discovered that because I had a very big and different opportunity than a lot of my colleagues. I met the love of my life, my now wife, a long time ago, 12, 13 something years ago. And we decided that, okay, she lived in Texas and had 4 kids, and I lived in New York City and had a career that was just budding as I was beginning to work with celebrities. And neither of us made enough money to be together and have the life that we wanted. And so this presented a problem. And I thought, okay, I know what I want. I have to accomplish this. So I had this huge reason I needed to figure money out. And I thought, okay, I've got these people in my chair. I'm in New York City. I'm in the finance capital of the world. And I'm getting these clients that are CEOs, CMOs, like executives of major companies. And I thought, you know what? Instead of having them pay me this fee, I'll just tell them, wait, I'll cut your hair for free if you'll teach me how you became wealthy. And all of them agreed. And I did this for years. And no one ever took me up on the free part. They all paid generously. And through that experience, I was able to learn some things about money that I thought were completely false. And one of those was my perception about people with money. And so I thought, one of the things that I thought was, if I'm making a lot, surely I must be taking it from someone else. And so I want to be a fair person. I want to be a good person, and I don't want to be a greedy person. And I had this idea that financial success meant I couldn't be a good person, a fair person, or serve others. And when I realized that when you win financially, you do it at the service of others, not at the expense of others. And so these successful people, they built businesses that were serving millions of people. And so they were rewarded financially. They served the most people. And so I thought in my mind, okay, how do I serve the most people? That's where real financial reward comes from. You become greedy when you want to win and gain wealth and build wealth and grow in your financial well-being at the expense of others. And that was a big lesson that I had to learn right away, was just changing my mind about, do I even want to build wealth? Is it right to build wealth? Is it fair to pursue financial freedom? And so that foundational belief changed a lot for me. I think one of the myths that held me back was that because I'm creative, because I was born an artist, because I'm this way, it automatically meant I couldn't be good with money and I couldn't be good with numbers. And that wound up being a massive myth as well. Because what I realized about a lot of the successful people that I worked with, from celebrities to artists, musicians, actors, executives, they were all born with special gifts. They were all born with different talents. But none of us in the Western society are excused from irresponsibly managing the things that we have and taking care of what we need to take care of. And so I thought, okay, well, I know a lot of financially successful artists. And so these people sat in my chair. These are creatives, songwriters, painters, it's such a wide variety of access to people living in New York City that I started asking them questions about what they thought about money. And it turned out that it was an absolute myth that just because you're a creative, you can't understand numbers, or you can't be good with money, or you can't learn how to invest or multiply money. It was a complete myth. Those are skills, the same as art, and that we develop our skills. But the big difference was that I had spent more hours developing my artistic skill, my artistic eye, my creative side of my brain, and I had spent no time developing the analytical side of my brain or the numbers side of my brain. So those are two foundational things that woke me up to the fact that, hey, this is possible for creatives. And if you look around you, you'll see financially successful creatives too. And so it just busts the myth. You can be incredibly financially successful as a creative.
I so appreciate that, because I do think it's sort of condescending that we've often talked about creatives as, oh, they're artists, but they don't have that business side. And also, I love that you attach the concept of service to, the more wealth you have, the more you're able to give back. So I appreciate that. That's an important distinction. I loved a class that you teach that's titled Gaining Business Clarity, just because the word clarity, again, I'm going back to this fear around finance. What gets in the way of clarity?
I think first, understanding yourself. There's a responsibility when you want to pursue success at anything, that you understand yourself, that you understand what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, who you are, what you want, where you're going, and who you need along the way. And I think developing that clarity means answering some pretty critical questions that actually wind up being pretty simple, like the ones I just asked. But you'd be very surprised, after having hundreds of students and coaching hundreds of students, how unclear people are on what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, who they might need to fill those weaknesses as they pursue success in what they're pursuing. And what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, and even clarity on what they even want. What do you want? Why must you have it? When do you want it? Who are you going to need along the way? And I think answering some of those questions as an exercise is one of the most exciting things I watch people do, because when they get clarity, they want to wake up earlier because they know what to do that day. They know what will generate success in their life. They know what's going to generate what's going to get them on the path to going where they want to go. Nobody wants to get on a bus and cross their fingers and hope that in 30 years, there will be enough resources for them to not have to break their back every day. I don't think that's really what any creative wants. So when we think about clarity, it's answering some basic questions, and they always start with you. Once you start understanding yourself, and I push people to take a series of tests, anything from, you can go out there and take any of the Colby indices tests, Colby A index, and you can go take some tests offered by a lot of people out there, right? So you can go and start understanding who you are, what you are, and that helps you better align your goals with your aptitudes and what you will naturally be good at. I see a lot of people spend a lot of time and spend a lot of years trying to be better at things they actually shouldn't be doing at all. And so they get frustrated and things just don't work. It's because their ambitions aren't aligned with what and who they really are and what they're supposed to be doing. So I think figuring that out is one of the most exciting and empowering exercises. We call it generating clarity. And it's what you have to do before you start a business. It's what you have to do before you start a family. It's what you should do before you start a career path or anything like that. You should have a good idea about how you want that to end and how you want that journey to look and what you intend for that experience to be for your life, and if it aligns with what you're naturally gifted at.
I appreciate that. And you've teed me up for another couple questions. Again, sort of around self-awareness. I heard something you said on stage that the pandemic in our industry, in the professional beauty industry, is insecurity. And I wondered if you think hairstylists are evolving in their self-evaluation and starting to value themselves more, or do you think we still have a ways to go? And if you think there is still a ways to go, how is that lack of self-worth tied to a lack of financial clarity?
It's a good question. And I think without being able to numerically define what security looks like, it'd be hard to say if collectively the industry is improving, other than judging what maybe you see on social media. So that'd be a hard one for me to answer without any hard facts. What I know from the students that I talk to and the people that are close to me, and the people that I've worked with over a decade in the industry, is that insecurity leads to a lot of other bad side effects in your business. So insecurity is sort of the root of a lot of other problems. It's a common cause of not getting paid what you want to get paid. It's a common cause of frustration in your business when people don't respond the way you wanted them to respond. It's a common problem in leadership when you're trying to lead a team and it's just not working. They're not doing what you need them to do. And so that insecurity and self-doubt is pervasive in the rest of everything you do and every decision you make and what you tolerate in your life. So it's a much broader problem than just insecurity because of all the side effects that insecurity brings. But if you boiled it down, I think collectively, hairstylists, in my personal experience, value themselves less than they should, while other industries and professions, maybe those people value themselves a little more than they should. And that comes from working with celebrities. So I think this gives a certain perception to the value that a hairdresser provides, that a hairstylist provides, because you get more of what you tolerate. And what you tolerate is directly linked to how confident you are in charging what you want and doing what you're best at and producing those roles or producing those results. So I think from a financial perspective, how insecurity has affected the financial outcome of hairstylists it is probably the primary aspect of what has negatively affected any hairstylist that isn't financially what they want to be. And I think it's done that through a lot of those side effects.
I appreciate that.
If you want to dig deeper into improving your relationship with money as a creative professional, go to millionairehairstylistpodcast.com, create a free student account, and you can access over 4 hours of free financial lessons on topics like calculating exactly what financial freedom would look like for you as a creative professional. Go to millionairehairstylistpodcast.com, create your free account today.
I also want to touch on something you said earlier when I asked you about clarity, and you kind of mentioned that you have to sort of identify maybe holes in your understanding or some weaknesses where you might need a little bolstering up. And there's a proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So
African
often
proverb.
when you...
Another one.
Because you hear so often from really wildly successful people, how did you do it? And they acknowledge that there were all these people along the way who supported them. So why do you think it's important to have the right partners and people in your life? And how do you go about identifying them?
That's a great question. And I think this is something that I hope to be learning for the rest of my life and getting better at. Because I don't think not anyone that I've met or anyone that I've heard of has solved the problem of people. The way that I look at scaling a business through people or choosing to go at it alone is that I want to do big and meaningful things. I developed a mission statement in my life. And that mission statement is to love well, give much, and work so hard you can do the first two extravagantly. And so I really want to love what I'm doing. I really want to love the people around me. I really want to love well in everything I do. And that's a good gauge that I can say, am I doing that? The second thing is I want to give much. Am I giving 100%? Am I being generous with my resources? Those are things that I really want my life to be marked by. So if I die, people say, yeah, man, he was always willing to share. He gave 100% to everything he pursued, always did one more, always did extra. And he was in love or obsessed with whatever he was pursuing. I think that is sort of paramount. You have to have this burning desire, as Napoleon Hill says in his book, Think and Grow Rich, that the foundation of this, of your success is that you do have clarity around a burning desire. And so I want that in my life, and I want to do those extravagantly. And in order to do that, I'm going to need a lot of resources. So I think if there's this mission in my life, guiding my life, that means I want to do meaningful work with meaningful people. I can't love well if I have no one around me, right? There's no one to actually make an impact with. And so I knew I didn't want to do things, everyone wants things fast, but I didn't want to do things alone, if that's what fast meant. I want to do something big, and I want to do something meaningful. And in order to do something meaningful, it has to involve other people. And if you want to do something big and meaningful, it has to involve a lot of other people. And that's both on the customer side, how many people are my business is serving, and how many people are on my team that I'm taking with me along the way to big wins. So I knew that I wanted people. And right away when I started hiring, I thought maybe I don't want people. Because the first, experience when you bring people into your business is, oh, maybe not. Maybe this isn't as great as I thought it would be. This is actually really slowing things down. It's more expensive. It's more complicated. People are probably the most complicated thing I've ever encountered. So I don't have a solve for it, but I think I've learned a lot of lessons, and I hope to learn a lot more, which means I'll need to make a lot more mistakes and meet a lot more wise people who have seen a lot more than I have. So I think when it comes to solving the people problem and scaling through people, it comes back to clarity, understanding who you are as a leader, what you want and where you're going, because people don't want to get on a bus where they don't know where it's going. They don't want to follow people who don't know where they're going and don't know what they want. And so having that clarity is key. The second thing is you want to be connected to the right people. I think if you aren't clear on what you want, it'll be hard to attract the right people. So always start with clarity. Always know what you want and where you're going. If you start there, you'll start to attract the right people in your life. And that's what we call your power circle, or building connections. That's basically step 2 in building a business. If you don't want to go at it alone, you're going to need other people. Every dollar and every opportunity in your life came from someone else. You can't think of one thing you gained in life, not even your breath, that didn't come from someone else. So don't ever try to build a business alone. There's actually no such thing as running a race alone. You will need other people. And if you don't recognize those other people, then those people will leave you as well. So in order to attract those right people, you have to know who you are, where you're going, what you're good at, and what you're not, because what you're not good at is where you'll find those other people. You don't want redundancy. You don't need 2 U's. You'll need people to help you along the way that pick up in the 98% of things you shouldn't be doing in your business, right? I think I hear this question so often. How do I do that? How do I do that? I got to learn how to do that from hairstylists, right? We're always trying to learn how. But every new how is another thing you have to do that leads to more time dedicated to it, that leads to more distraction, that leads to being less effective at every new thing you do. So who is a better question? And this is a concept popularized by Dan Sullivan in his book, Asking Who, Not How. And when you ask who, it's all about who is the right person who can I bring on my team to help fill the gaps for the things that suck the energy out of me, that I'm not naturally gifted at, that I don't want to do, that can help me scale this business. And then the second component to that is, how can I make sure that that person is economically viable? Because everyone wants help, right? But how do you know you can afford it? Well, that comes down to your financial education. And there's a really simple method for how you could do it. And there's a more complicated method. The simple way is, if you'll have to determine what the value of a new person you're bringing to your team will add. For example, if you know what you produce in your business in an hour, what your hour is worth, well, then you could say, if I bring in an assistant who doesn't necessarily make me more money, how many hours will I get back that I can go be more productive? That's one simple way to do it if you're just starting out with maybe an assistant. A second way to do it is to bring on a revenue generating role, right? So you have maybe administrative roles and you have people that come in and help, and they don't necessarily directly correlate to more dollars in the business, but they're necessary in freeing you up, or maybe freeing some of your team members up. The second one is bringing someone in who makes you money. And there's a model that you draw out and say, well, how much do I think this person, how much value do I want this person to add to my business? And how much will that cost me? And then you can say, well, hey, will that add anything to the business? Or is this person going to cost me $100,000 and I'm only expecting them to bring in 50,000? Well, that might be a problem if you don't have a plan for how to move past that. So there's the right people component, bringing in the right people to the right seats, making sure that those are actual seats you need in your business that align with your weaknesses. And I'm speaking specifically to just getting started with people. And then how am I going to make sure that they earn their keep? Those are two really, really important questions. And we could go on about the topic of people for hours and hours and hours. I'm happy to.
I'm sure. I'm sure. People, places, and things. The things
That's
you
true,
can
yes.
control. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I have 3 more questions, if you're okay with that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So we did a webinar recently, and I spoke with 3 salon owners, 3 very different locations: New York, Los Angeles, Salt Lake City. And they each function very differently in their salons and as owners and artists. But they all agreed that beauty professionals have to start staying out of their clients' wallets. So this all wraps up into service pricing and raising prices. So I have a theory that because beauty professionals, I believe, tend to be really empathetic people, they might have a harder time setting prices without worrying it's a hardship for their clients. So why do you think it's so hard to raise prices without apology?
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing. If you're concerned about the well-being of others, that's a good thing. You don't want to get rid of that. I've heard a lot of people say that emotions don't belong in business, and they absolutely do. I think if you ignore them, you're being foolish. You were given feelings and intuition and compassion and empathy for a reason. It's when you let those things control the outcome and the value of your efforts and your time. You have one short life. You have one family that you get to spend time with, and you're going to have one future. And the way that future looks and the impact you can have on the world depends on the amount of resources that you control. And so if you want to have a good impact, you're going to need a lot of resources. And if you believe you have a good mission in your life and you're pursuing quality things with your life, like maybe that's you want to put your kids through college, or maybe it's you want to build a business, or you're going to need resources to do those things. So when it comes to raising prices, fairness is never a topic that ever comes into my mind. If you're thinking about your client's well-being, I will almost guarantee you that in most cases, the hairstylist has not looked at that person's bank account. So they're not doing a proper financial analysis. They're assuming, which leaves a lot of informational gaps and a lot of hunches and a lot of assuming. And most of the time, those assumptions are based off of what you think you can afford. And that's just not true. What you can afford is not what your clients can afford. And it's actually none of your business to assume what your clients can afford. And in fact, it's actually quite presumptuous of you of a hairstylist or of a service provider to assume the financial capabilities of their clients, because it's classism at its worst. You are looking at a person and you have to determine what you think they can afford and what they can't based on how you perceive how they present themselves to you. That's classism. I mean, it's like pretty simple. You look at somebody, and if you're going to judge what you charge based off of what they look like, it's a really foolish decision and quite an unfair decision. I think second, when it comes to raising prices, I have a pretty different take on raising prices. I don't think raising prices should be done because costs have gone up. I don't think raising prices is a mandatory thing you do every year. I don't think raising prices should be based on your perceived value, your perceived perception of your own value. Like your perceived perception is redundant there, but your perception of your own value. Those are really, really bad ways to raise your prices. I think the best way to raise your prices is when you maximize your demand and your supply has become diminished to the point where you have to raise your prices, or the quality of the service you are delivering will be diminished. And I give an example of 2 salon owners. Alex, a salon owner, has a line of 30 people out her door every single day waiting for services, cooking in the hot sun. She's working as fast as she possibly can. Her floors aren't being swept because she has so many clients to deal with. She's rushing through services and her business is breaking because of the amount of demand. Well, there's the other salon owner, Tracy, let's say, who has 9 hours of empty chair time in her salon each day. She's spending time posting on Instagram, trying to attract new clients. There's not a line of clients out her door. And in fact, she often finds herself bored, wondering what to do next to build her business. Which person do you think would be in a position to raise their prices? Well, most people answer Alex, the one with excessive demand. She has to raise her prices or it reduces the quality of the experience for everyone, right? She has to curb the demand. It means when you base your prices off of supply and demand, you can raise them based on market, the market, how the market is valuing your service. Now you might say, well, I want to set my prices. I don't want the market to set my prices. And that's absolutely right. But the one thing that happens when you base your prices off of maximizing demand is that you maximize demand and then you get to set the price. How comfortable would you be raising your prices if there were a list of 1,000 people on a wait list waiting to be your client at double the price you're charging now? Would you be nervous? Most people answer no. They wouldn't be nervous. But how many hairstylists are fully booked and building wait lists and continuing their marketing and prospecting funnels, driving client demand, even if they can't take any more? Well, not very many, because you need your demand to exceed your available time to be able to charge the most. And I've done several masterclasses on how to charge the most, because in my career, I was able to charge as much as $15,000 for a service. And I think getting your prices from my initial price of $3 a haircut up to where it was because I used these same strategies. I wanted to maximize the demand for my service so that it eliminated concern and for anything. So now you might wonder, okay, well, if I'm at a place where I need to raise my prices, it might displace my customers. Then what I would say to that person is you need to implement a model into your business where you can still service those customers in your business at a lower price tier. So it may be time to, maybe expand your salon if you're a salon owner, right? Maybe bring in a person who can handle your clients that don't want to pay that new price with an equally or comparably proficient hairstylist, right? So you have options for clients at different price tiers. You may have a referral program with someone else where you might say, hey, I'm raising my prices. If you're not good with these, totally understand. I have 3 other hairstylists I'm happy to refer you to. And then maybe you get a referral, you get like an affiliate or referral from that hairstylist, a fee for sending those clients over. There's a lot of relationships and a lot of really cool business strategies that hairstylists have implemented in their careers to get their prices up when they have excessive demand. Now, I want to say that there's a caveat to this. If people might have lots of questions about prices, right? If you are in a business where you're experiencing excessive demand and you're at the top of your market, what a lot of hairstylists did is they reduced client count and increased prices and took on a better lifestyle, working 3 days a week, working 2 days a week, and making tons of money. But that only works in a financially abundant market condition. When people start pinching pennies again and the economy isn't doing as well, they get very price concerned and price conscious. And then you see client migration. And then you go, my client count is dropping and I'm at the highest tier. And so I'm the first person people are looking at to go somewhere else. And so we make this mistake of raising prices and reducing client count too much in a time of abundance. And I saw hundreds of hairstylists doing that then turn around and go, I was in crazy demand when things are good, but now that people are losing their jobs, or now that the economy is people aren't as confident, or the cost of living has gone up significantly, they're not willing to spend that much and they're going somewhere else. So that becomes a problem. So I will say you have to weigh a few things when you're raising prices. There's a strategy to doing it well. But I would say if you base it off of demand and you focus on maximizing demand, you will always raise your prices confidently and ethically.
I appreciate this response so much because you came at it from a completely different direction than I expected. About you in talking about emotions, in talking about you're kind of going against the strategy that I see often on someone's Instagram bio where they say, not taking any more clients or current clients only.
Yeah.
I can believe you do now that I've heard your response. This is such a good discussion. I'm going to ask you to kind of future cast, because we at Modern, we speak to, and we're celebrating 100 years of Modern Salon. So for 100 years, I know,
Incredible.
It's just incredible. And in all that time, our mission has been to support hairdressers, hair professionals, beauty professionals at every stage of their career. But we've seen so much change in the industry. We have every type of environment. We have commission-based, we have solo salon suites, we have hybrid salons, editorial, mobile stylists. What do you think? Now, I know that this is like, I'm asking you to kind of give me a prediction, but do you see something coming next? Do you see something trending? I'm in California. I see the solo artists just continuing to boom. But do you have something that you think is going to be on the horizon, more hybrid maybe? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, that's okay. I think it's as a journalist, if you're an interviewer, it's a great question to get a prediction out of somebody. It's great if you can do that. Now, my stance on predictions are that I don't predict, I prepare. I have a different stance on making predictions.
Like that.
I don't think many of my predictions, many of them have failed. Many of the things that I thought would be a certain way didn't go that way. And so to make a prediction, I have to kind of assume that I understand the global sentiment about all of these different facets of an industry. And I think it'd be pretty arrogant to do that. I'm just not that smart. So I think when it comes to what's next in this industry, I think it'd be wise to take a step back and be looking at what's going on. And I think you can do that by subscribing to several news services. I do paid services, reading magazines, reading what journalists are writing, kind of like what you guys are doing at Modern Salon. And I think paying attention to what your competitors are doing. For each of my businesses, I have a separate secret Instagram account, a secret YouTube account. I have a separate email account where I sign up for everyone's emails. I follow all of the thought leaders and people who I think have an impactful voice, right? Or who may be already speaking to my customers. And I dig into those weekly. And I don't scroll through Instagram personally ever. I have a no social media usage policy. I'm a content creator, but I don't personally consume it unless I'm consuming advertisements or doing study. And so when I dive in and I look at all these things going on, I would say the one trend that I am seeing, whether that trend pans out or as a prediction or not, is that I'm seeing more segregation in the industry than unity. I'm seeing more people make changes more quickly, from commission to independent to solo to this to that, as I think there's been an increase in dissatisfaction in the industry. So I think hairstylists are often spoken about as people who are creatives and dreamers and visionaries, right? So they're always imagining the grass is sort of greener somewhere else. They can always sort of envision that something could be better. That's how their clients get better hair. They have to be able to see it first. So when you have a group of people who are creative and visionaries, they're always going to be envisioning a better future and a better outcome and a better haircut and a better service, right? So I think what that creates is an environment of migration and looking for something new and fresh. But what I would say is success often lies in repeated, consistent habits and behaviors over long periods of time. So if a person is considering a shift from one thing to another, I think it'd be really important to ask yourself why you're making those moves, really understand what you're hoping the outcome is on the other side, really weigh the consequences, the upsides, the downsides, the costs, and get a little deeper into it, rather than always thinking that next move is the better thing. I will say I have seen from conversations with major companies who are in the salon franchise business, the salon suite business, product founders, I would say there has been a move in the people that I'm speaking to anyway. I don't know if I don't have any data behind this, so I can't back this up with data. So I'm going to move to hairstylists wanting more independence in general over their financial outcome. They want the freedom to be able to set their prices a lot of times. They want the freedom to get what they believe they should be paid. And that's led to, I think, a lot more people working independently. No idea if that's across the industry, if that's a fact, but that's just what I've seen in the small window that I have looking into the industry. Hope that answers your question a little bit.
It does. And this is my last question. And I'm reconsidering it a little bit after having talked to you, because my original question that I posed was, do you still see clients? And if you don't, how do you continue to sort of stay in touch with a stylist's life, their concerns, their current predicaments, worries? But through our discussion, I am seeing that you are somebody that stays in touch regardless, whether you are constantly taking in new stimuli, new input, and that you maybe don't have to be standing behind a chair and servicing a client to understand what a hairstylist needs. That said, do you still see clients? And how do you stay in touch with the day-to-day hairstylist life and knowing what they need to hear from you?
I don't see clients anymore. And I think it was a really important part of my journey that I retired, because I knew that was my goal. I didn't want to be doing hair forever. And I loved every second of forming and shaping my career. And that's probably an overstatement, not every second. There's obviously slices of hell in every career. And I ate those as well. So getting through it, I enjoyed building it, and I enjoyed the lessons I learned. I enjoyed the people I met, and I enjoyed the skills I acquired. But I knew from about year one that I wanted to retire from being a working hairstylist and do something big. I wanted to do something big. I knew that was in me. And so when I started my career and I needed to learn about money, and I started learning about business and investing, and that really, really interested me. And so that's the path I went. I started investing and I started building businesses. And there was a certain point at which those grew to where I knew and I felt like, hey, it's time. I can do it. I can retire. I became financially independent as a hairstylist. And it was a very, very hard decision to make. It was crazy to consider letting go of the identity of, hey, I work with famous people. Hey, I'm really good at this. I'm known for this, right? To a very small community in the world, but I'm known among a small group of people for being good at this. Those identities were hard to be like, well, what am I going to be? Because basically I feel like I've done something here. I've worked with Justin Bieber and Kylie Jenner and all these huge, celebrities, and I'm traveling and I'm getting paid a lot. And if I go into business, I'm going to be at the very, very, very bottom of the bottom. I'll be a very small business, because businesses go to billions of dollars, right? So I'll be at the very bottom again. And what's that going to say about me? And then with a little bit of deliberation, I thought, well, what would it say about me if I kept doing what I knew was not my long-term calling? What would it say to me if I didn't what would it say about me if I didn't take the risk of retiring and showing other hairstylists that a hairstylist can retire a multimillionaire in less than a decade? That can be done. I've done it. And I think when I started learning what that story might be able to mean for other people, it was easier to make the decision to let go of being a working hairstylist and figure out how I might be able to help other hairstylists with that. And through that, what it's given me is, when I was a working hairstylist, I had a single perspective, one viewpoint, and that was me standing behind the chair and my career. It was my experience. Well, now that I've interviewed a lot of hairstylists, I've studied a lot of hairstylists, I've coached a lot of hairstylists, I get to hear a larger quantity of problems, which gives me a more global perspective about what real problems exist in the industry and what really needs to be solved. And that's helped me understand what's really painful now with hairstylists. Every month I get into a room of high performing hairstylists that we host. It's called The Room. It's a private room right now. And we discuss with high performing hairstylists what's going on? What are you guys doing? How are you getting clients? What's working? What's not working? And where do you see things going? How do you see staffing trends? What's going on with marketing and prospecting? What offers are you making to generate new clients that's working? So these are things that I get access to that as a hairstylist you may not. As if I was standing behind the chair, that's information I wouldn't have access to either. And so I think it was a very, very important move and a more valuable move for me to retire from being a working hairstylist, because I'm not teaching you how to curl hair. I don't need to be standing behind the chair, and I don't want to be. And I think that's okay. And I think a lot of hairstylists and creatives should hear that it's okay to not want to do this forever. It's okay to not want to hustle and grind 10 hours a day. It's okay to not want to post on Instagram. It's okay to want to retire and not do this forever. But you should know what you want and what's next for you. And I think when you develop that vision, letting go of it and finding a path through it, not around it or away from it, a path through it is really exciting to people. It's exciting to talk to hairstylists in their 40s who are like, hey, I'm actually generating wealth. I'm doing well. I'm excited to not stand behind the chair. And some people, it's totally okay to want to stand behind the chair forever. That's totally okay. It's okay for either. I think people just need to kind of accept that what you want is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That was a real full circle moment right there, because it all seems to come back to what we talked about at the very outset about clarity. That, to get clear on what you want, where you want to go, and when you want to go somewhere differently, that it's okay to change your mind. Thank you for letting me kind of flip the script. I really appreciate that. I got to interview you, because that's my comfortable place, to be able to dive into questions with somebody else. So I'm so grateful. I got a lot out of this, and especially, I have to say, just around thinking about service, thinking about emotions, that we don't have to, be automatons and distance ourselves from our emotions when it comes to setting pricing, and just general clarity. It's just great. I loved it.
Well, I had a good time too, but I did a whole lot of talking. And we reached out to learn more about you. We handpick our guests. And I think we've got, 12 minutes left. I'd love to be able to ask you some questions about, what you've learned, because you've been in this industry probably longer than I have. I think from what you mentioned, you've been in the industry in areas and in roles that I haven't been. You've been an editor. You've been in the publishing side of the business. You've been in the manufacturing side of the business, product side of the business. I mean, I think you've seen a lot of what's going on. I'd love to be able to pick your brain about some things that I'm curious about from what you're seeing from that 10,000 foot level, if you're comfortable with it.
Sure, you bet.
Be amazing. Well, so you get access working at Modern Salon. I am almost certain you guys have access to data. Industry data. You kind of look at trends. You purchase reports, probably, as most big companies do. Maybe you're a subscriber to having access to trends, access to what's going on in the industry. I would love to know what you guys are seeing from your 30,000 foot view as the main pain that hairstylists and salon owners are experiencing right now, and why you think that is.
Sure. And I'll tell you the truth. We actually generate our own research. So we are not necessarily purchasing reports. We have a research arm. We have a really well-developed research team. We work with companies who want to do proprietary research because, agreed, and you mentioned this a lot, you need to have the data to make informed decisions. We are a beauty group. So I'm over Modern and another group called Nails, which is self-explanatory for the nail artist, nail technician. Yeah. And then we also have Salon Today, which is really owners, managers. And then we even have Barbering Today, which is for barbers. So yeah, we're a 4 media titles and all speaking to the professional, all business to business. So you asked about pain points. And I don't want to keep talking about the pandemic. I want to be over talking about the pandemic, but there are still reverberations from the pandemic. And we know that despite the fact that a lot of salons closed, they came back, they came roaring back. People, we talk about revenge travel. I think there were revenge beauty appointments. People were determined to get back into the salon and get back to their stylist. But I do believe we're still a little down. And I think the pain point for salon owners is still attraction and retention of employees. You mentioned your challenge that, it's often people, isn't it? There's a lot that we can do as an island, but when we're a society, we need to function alongside other humans. And sometimes, that's the challenge. So salons continue to have challenges attracting talent and retaining talent. And stylists continue, I think, to be challenged by finding a home that really fits their vibe. I know we say your vibe attracts your tribe, but if you have a certain vibe and you want to go into a salon, I think you want it to kind of align with your values and maybe who you are, or maybe not. I mean, it depends. I'm not a hairdresser, but I know that I want to work with good people. I want to work with people who feel similarly to me about how to work together. So long-winded answer to say our research is original research. We really dig deep. We spread our tentacles wide out into the industry and do regular outreach and reports. And what we continue to see is that struggle with attracting talent and retaining talent.
What is the current retention rate for the industry? Do you guys have any data on that?
I do. I don't have it at my fingertips. I would suggest to anybody that they go to Modern Salon and or Salon Today. We actually just did a webinar on the Salon Today side. It was with Summit Salons, and they did a state of the industry. And so they really rolled out some of their own research, some of their own data, and they delivered it through a webinar format. But I don't have hard numbers, mainly because that's why I'm an editor, because I'm like a word nerd. And numbers, you tell me something and I'm going to have to ask you 20 times to repeat it. But we do have that. If you visit our sites, you will be able to dig in there and find that.
I love that answer because that's more valuable than even answering the question. I think that's really, really important that salons have access to data. For a long time, I think hairstylists have been ill-equipped with data, and they've had to make decisions from the hip, which, like I said, it's important to have feelings. You're a human. You're not going to be able to disconnect them from running your business. You're just going to need to manage them and make wise choices with them. But if people can go to those websites that you mentioned, and I want to make sure that we get those from you so we can put them in the show notes for people. They can access data to make better decisions in their salon. And even just knowing what is the industry benchmark for retention? What is the standard churn rate in this industry? And just knowing how you're doing. I think a lot of people are left in the dark and wondering whether they're doing well or not doing well. And they just don't know because there's for especially for independents or small salon owners, they're sort of winging it and kind of like hoping that they're doing okay. And it's really, really empowering to know, okay, so like that's the benchmark, that's normal. It's so nice to know if what's going on in your business is normal. Every business has a churn rate. So to be upset that you're losing some employees is like crazy because you're going to. That's part of business. Right. You just want to know if you're gaining and losing at an acceptable rate. And I think I'd love to know from you, what have you seen in the industry as far as successful strategies, if any, through writing and through having access to the data that you have access to? What have you seen as successful strategies for people to attract talent to their salon?
Well, I don't think this will come as any big surprise or revelation, but it's been a savvier use of social media. It has been some social listening. It's been salons not being so passive, waiting for people to come to them. It has been outreach. Salons that have, the staff and the ability to do this, to do that social listening, to hear what stylists are talking about, what stylists are concerned about, and then maybe reaching out to say, hey, you know what, I understand that this is something that didn't work for you at your past salon. Here's how we're doing it. I also think on social media, in addition to showing, to thinking about how consumers are taking in their content, smart and sort of socially savvy salons are thinking about how hairdressers are taking in their content. So they're being very transparent about, here's what it's like to work here. Here's what we do. Here's what our break room looks like. Here's how we maybe sometimes spend time together outside of the salon. I think that using social media, not just to attract clients, but to attract talent, has probably been the best strategy. And again, as I said, not being passive, not just expecting that people are going to come find you, but also doing outreach. I know there's always been a tradition of going to beauty schools, of finding out where new talent was coming into your market and meeting them with open arms. But I think more salons are looking for sort of established stylists, and they're reaching out to them on social media. And I think it's working.
Wow. So active outreach and showing your audience what working at your business is like. Exactly. Is working for salons out there.
And I think that was also something that we really learned during the pandemic, is that people could use their social media to say, this is what the experience is going to be like when you come into my salon. Here's how you're going to be greeted. Here's how our stations are separated by this much space. We can do a intake over the phone or online or over a Zoom chat. I think that salons learned the importance of transparency, and that they continue to do that, and that it worked during the pandemic to show clients this is a safe space, and now it works to show stylists this is a safe and welcoming space.
I think it was Statista who released some top, or maybe it was another platform. I think it was Statista that released like the top 4 trending themes on social media this year, and transparency and authenticity were 2 of them. It was really interesting that you mentioned that, because yes, consumers are wanting to feel like more of the party. And I think we're seeing that as Absolutely. Well in the education space. Less people want to take courses. More people want to be a part of a mastermind or a group. More people want to learn faster, relevant information. And I think that aligns, what I'm seeing aligns really well with that. I want to ask you a personal question. You live in Los Angeles. What is your personal opinion about beauty services and the prices they are at right now? What's your personal opinion on what's going on?
I'm a little spoiled, because part of my job is to experience beauty services, which is something that I did a lot more in years past. I say LA as sort of, shorthand so people know where I live. I live in LA County. I live just outside of Los Angeles right now. And for years, I lived in the heart of LA in a neighborhood called Silver Lake. And I was very close to so many different salons. And I just had to do a lot of research. I had to go into these salons and I loved every minute of it. And I also went for years, to somebody I went to high school with. I mean, these were my salon visits. I didn't really think about what they were going to cost me. I thought this is like going to Cancun right now. I am getting away from, my routine. I'm getting away from, kids at home. I'm getting away from, this is my chance to escape. But I think from what I see, I think prices are very much in line. And I also, going back to what we talked about earlier, people are going to pay what I would consider outrageous amounts for certain things. But I'll always pay for beauty services because to me, it's so much more than just, that cut and a color. But in Los Angeles, I'm Cash. I think it's what the market will bear, and I think that people will pay for a good experience.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. What's your opinion on the future of retail in salons?
Gosh, isn't that a big topic right now? Because there are schools of thought where, stylists, salon owners, independents especially, are saying, I've got this tiny little footprint of a salon. How do I give over space to retail? So many stylists can sell online and get affiliate, credit and have an experience with their client where they don't have to send their client or their client doesn't head out to Amazon. Maybe they can say, you love this, purchase it, use my code. I still think retail is really important, actually. And maybe I'm bucking up, a trend. I don't know. I think retail is an important piece of any business. If you are in the service business, to be able to say, this is what I used on you. And I know that for years, I said the same condescending attitude towards, artists, they're not good with numbers. I hate that we've always talked about how, they're not good salespeople. Well, they're not salespeople necessarily, but but they want to help their clients. And this is part of helping your clients. And, I always appreciated it when somebody told me what they used. It didn't mean I was going to purchase it, but it meant that they were giving me a 360 view of what I just went through. What was used on me, how I might maintain my style. Do you see that here? I wanted to flip the tables and interview you, but when you ask me a question, I can go on and on and on forever because I have so many thoughts. And also my thoughts change. I mean, thank God, right? We can evolve and adapt and have different opinions, but I believe, Cash, this is my final word. I think retail is important. I don't think it's going away. I think that a lot of people got kind of bitter about saying, God, for years we supported brands. For years we, did so much for them. What did they do? What are they doing for us? I'm not a salon owner, but I still see salons having huge success with retail sales. So what do you think about retail?
I think it's grossly undervalued. I think it's a massive opportunity in a business. And I think Beyonce doesn't have to sell you her tickets. You've experienced her music. Therefore, if you like it, you will want to buy those tickets. And that's the same way products are. I don't think you can achieve the look that you deliver without the products and tools that you use. And as a hairstylist and a professional, you're doing your clients a disservice by allowing them to use things that won't replicate what you've done. So if Beyonce, for example, did an album, right? And she recorded that album. And then you have to go, when you show up to that, concert and you want to go listen to it live, it's utter garbage and it doesn't work. And you look on the stage and it's not actually Beyonce. You're giving a very similar experience where you're like, I go in, I get this, and I want to know how to repeat it. For the hairstylists that deliver incredible results for people want to use what you're using. So selling retail, you're not selling. they should immediately be wondering what you're doing, what you're using, and how you did what you did. It should be like a magic trick, right? Because someone does a magic trick at a show and all the kids are like, wait, how do you do that? How do you do that? Well, what is that? That's how your clients should feel about an exceptional service. The products are absolutely an important part of it. But I also think that that any business that doesn't have a cross-sell, upsell implementation or strategy inside of it, how you're going to make the most of that client experience while they're there, how you monetize each client by delivering more value, I think is a huge miss, just because you feel like I don't like selling, or they're going to buy it on Amazon anyway.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much again, Anne. Talk soon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you're a hairstylist, if you're a creative professional, and you are interested in your financial well-being, remember to like and subscribe so that more episodes just like this one show up in your YouTube feed.